I was 20 years old, interning at a financial firm the summer before my senior year of college. The job involved endless data entry and spreadsheets, but it paid well and looked good on my resume. Our intern group had 8 people, all crammed into an open office with low dividers that offered little privacy. Most were easygoing students, but one guy, Eric, was intensely focused, typing as if his keyboard had offended him. Then there was Brandon. At first, Brandon seemed just awkward, tall, thin, with pale skin and unkempt dark hair. But soon his behavior became unsettling. He'd pop up at my cubicle, leaning over so only his head was visible, grinning with a fixed, eerie smile. He'd speak in a deliberately strange voice, like he was performing a horror movie bit. I'd force a laugh, but it felt out of place professionally. He'd say things like, "keeping busy," or "barely breathing," in a slow, unnatural tone, holding that smile too long. Initially, I thought it was quirkiness, but it became a daily ritual. Every day, his head would rise over the cubicle wall with that same stretched grin, and he'd launch into nonsensical conversations. Sometimes he'd mutter random phrases or tell jokes that weren't funny, always with that soft, taunting voice. Other interns noticed but dismissed it as him being odd for fun. I felt targeted, like I was his captive audience for some creepy act. As weeks passed, his visits lengthened. He'd stare at me for minutes, barely speaking. I'd fake a laugh, claim I had work, but he rarely budged. Then one night, 6 weeks in, I was home eating dinner when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, expecting a delivery, but heard only silence. Then Brandon's voice, that forced, creepy tone, came through. He said, "The waves are crashing. Pull your ship to shore." His voice was louder, almost a yell, drawn out like a chant. Then he erupted in unhinged laughter and hung up. My skin crawled. I never gave him my number. I texted back, but it failed. It was a landline. How did he get it? Why call me? I tried to rationalize, but his laugh haunted me. This wasn't joking, it felt intentional. His laugh echoed in my mind, a sound that chilled me to the bone. That Monday, Brandon wasn't at work. His desk was empty. I asked my supervisor, Mr. Davis, if Brandon had access to my number. He said interns didn't, and revealed Brandon had been fired the previous week for not working. I mentioned the call. Other interns admitted he'd creeped them out too. Mr. Davis assured me he was gone. For a week, I was on edge, but nothing happened. Then one early morning around 5 a.m., I woke to a noise. I looked out my window and saw a figure in my backyard. Brandon, staring up at me. Even in the dim light, I recognized his posture and hair. He called my name in that same performative voice, drawn out and sing-songy. I grabbed my phone to dial 911, but he tilted his head back and laughed that same hysterical laugh. I shouted through the window, threatening to call the police and waving my phone. He stood still for a moment, then turned and walked away, laughing as he vanished into the trees. I called the police, but since he didn't trespass or threaten directly, they couldn't act. I never saw him again. I finished the internship, received a job offer, but declined. Over time, I assumed he had mental health issues. But that image of him in my backyard lingers. How did he find my address? What did he want? I'll always remember his laugh in the darkness. Some coworkers hide shadows behind their smiles. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you at work? At the age of 17, I worked at a grocery store in a quiet Vermont town where nothing much happened. I enjoyed the job, most coworkers were friendly, and during slow shifts, we'd gather up front to chat about TV or vent about customers. There was Kyle, who worked in dairy, 24 years old, awkward with long hair that wasn't quite shoulder length. He was quiet, and I barely noticed him until I joined a work group chat. He started messaging me directly. At first it was innocent, questions about shifts or small talk, but it escalated to personal queries, my music tastes, weekend plans. He'd call me cute in a way that felt uncomfortable. I was 17, he was older. I ignored it, not wanting drama. One day I was home binge-watching Stranger Things. Days later at work, we discussed TV shows, and Kyle asked, "You're into Stranger Things, right?" I froze. I'd never mentioned it. How did he know? I nodded, but a cold dread settled in. He smiled awkwardly and left. That night, I heard tapping on my bedroom window. I thought it was wind, but it repeated, a distinct light tap. I looked out and saw nothing, but Kyle's question replayed in my head. A few days later, I texted him firmly that I wasn't interested. He replied, "Okay, good luck with your new place." That confirmed my fears. I saved the messages, told my manager, and filed a police report with my dad. Kyle was fired and we obtained a restraining order, but the fear persisted. I checked locks obsessively, avoided unknown calls, and felt paranoid for weeks. With no contact, the anxiety faded slowly, but it taught me to trust my gut. Awkwardness can mask something sinister. How well do you know the people you work with? When I was 26, I worked at a small insurance office in Pennsylvania, a dull place behind a strip mall with flickering lights and constant coffee smell. It paid the bills. One Friday, a severe storm warning hit. By afternoon, rain poured so hard visibility vanished, and thunder shook the windows. The manager let most staff leave early, but I stayed to finish paperwork with Greg, a new hire of 2 weeks. Greg was in his early 30s, tall, quiet, and always seemed nearby. If I made coffee, he'd appear moments later. I thought he was just socially awkward. At 5 p.m., the storm raged. Lightning flashed every few seconds. Thunder vibrated the floor. Greg sat at his desk, typing what looked like gibberish, and I caught him glancing at me. Around 6:30, the power flickered and died. Emergency lights cast an orange haze. I suggested leaving, but Greg didn't respond. I heard keys jingle and the front door lock. He muttered, "It's not safe outside yet." His tone sent chills down my spine. I grabbed my bag to wait. When I tried calling my boyfriend, my phone had no signal. The landline was dead. I turned and nearly screamed. Greg stood in the doorway, holding a flashlight under his chin, shadows distorting his face. He gave a faint smile. I said he scared me and asked to unlock the door, but he insisted we wait out the storm. I pretended calm but was nervous. When he left, I headed to the back door, but it was chained shut from inside, unprecedented. I saw a flashlight glow down the hall and hid in a supply closet. I heard him call my name, saying he wanted to keep me safe. My heart pounded. He walked past, light under the door, then darkness. After 10 minutes, I crept out. The front door was shattered, rain blowing in. Greg was gone. I ran to my car through the downpour and sped home. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, my manager saw the broken glass. Police found Greg's car unlocked, with his keys, phone, and wallet inside. Cameras had been manually disabled before the outage. He vanished. I quit shortly after. What was his plan? I'll never know. But it reminded me that danger can hide in familiar places. In the stillness of an empty office, every sound echoes with fear.